Without objection.
I thank the gentleman for the time, and I thank both he and the ranking member for their support. Too often we take for granted those places where we live in terms of the landmarks that are around us. And this is a celebration of a roadway that, it was stated before, was set up or thought of originally to link the borough of Manhattan to the Bronx, but it became much more than that. It became a cultural icon. It became part of a community. And as the city grew, and up to today in its 100th anniversary, it has become even grander year by year. We are now celebrating 100 years of the Grand Concourse, and this, as was said, was designed by a French immigrant in 1894. And when it opened in 1909, it was something spectacular that had not been seen before. Those of you who have come on many occasions, I'm sure, and hopefully in the future, to visit the Bronx and to visit Yankee Stadium will know that the Grand Concourse, that 4-mile thoroughfare that stretches from 138th Street to Van Cortlandt in my borough, the Bronx, is really majestic in form and so full of history. The Grand Concourse has the largest collection of Art Deco buildings in the United States. And those dark echo buildings are those that you walk into, and the lobbies are just so special with the artwork and the murals that were painted, especially during World War II and in the late 30s. Those buildings are now part of the National Registry. In addition, the Grand Concourse itself has been designated and registered as a National Historic Place, and has also been designated as a Special Preservation District by the City of New York. And as was mentioned before, if you go to the Grand Concourse, you'll see the cottage known as Poe Cottage, where Edgar Allan Poe wrote the poem Annabel Lee, and that is still standing there. Many folks, as we mentioned today, have lived on the Grand Concourse. Of course, I live on the Grand Concourse, and I certainly did not have the kind of year Babe Ruth had in 1927, but I have had a pretty good year in this past year. This Congress saw fit a couple of years ago to designate $18 million that was used to renovate parts of the Grand Concourse and its infrastructure. That was in January of '06. And now, as part of that celebration, the Bronx Museum of the Arts is celebrating the roadway in its exhibition Intersections, the Grand Concourse at 100. What's interesting about the Grand Concourse, I believe, it is that it mirrors so much what New York City is and what this country is. Because as you travel the concourse, not only physically, but through its history, you see the different groups of people who came to New York, who came to the Bronx, who settled on the concourse, as we call it, and we became part of America. And so, as we see people enjoying the parks and enjoying and socializing on the concourse, we see the different groups that have arrived from throughout the world and from my birthplace of Puerto Rico. The Grand Concourse has for them fulfilled and exceeded its planners' intentions over a series of generations, occupying a central place in the hearts and minds of Bronxites, past and present. And so I have come today here in support of this resolution. I would hope everyone votes for it. And once again, I thank the committee, chairman and the ranking members for their support.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Tennessee.
Mr. Speaker, I have no other speakers, and so I yield back the balance.